Yobo here with Chris Etherington, taking a look at the Arnold Palmer Invitational on DraftKings. Looking at some picks here. Coming off last week, fellow Canadian of yours, Adam Hadwin, came over with a big W.
Yeah, it was a really good win for him. He's been knocking on the door for a while, especially for this year. But now with his first win, he's now invited into the Masters and a couple other big tournaments. And out of all the Canadians that we have right now, he's definitely my number one. He's been my number one for a while, for the last 2 or 3 years since I've known him.
Yeah, played really well. Last week was a little bit interesting. Got some kind of late news about some guys getting sick towards the end of, right before tee off and all that. Hopefully that doesn't happen this week. But I mean, it is something to be notable and kind of keep a tag on.
Yeah, that's when Twitter is your best friend. Basically, last week you had 4 guys that were pulled out of the Pro-Am. You had you had Schwartzel, you had Thomas and Berger, and 3 of the 4 guys missed the cut. So if you were on board and paying attention to the news the day before on what's happening, you could go behind the 8 ball very quickly if you're not careful.
Yeah, I mean, I completely missed Nah. I mean, I saw the bigger names, but now I didn't realize he got sick, and it burned a lot of my lineups.
Right. I had about at least 20% of him, and when I heard that he was sick as well, then I just took him out completely. It was just funny hearing all the guys from Mexico going to Feldspar, and all of a sudden they just got sick. And I was just thinking, okay, just don't play them for the week. If they play well, okay, yeah. But that's pretty much what you have to go through for the week.
Yeah, and jumping into this week, I mean, we got a couple guys up top. Rory obviously back, 7th place in Mexico. You have him listed as your top guy for this week.
Yeah, I was really impressed with his play in Mexico. Like he could have easily won that tournament after Friday. He just had a bad Saturday. He just couldn't get anything going. So coming back from a rib injury and showing what he did in Mexico, I'm just going to pay up for him, hoping that he's going to be a little low owned this week with a big tournament on DraftKings. I think people are going to go more towards Stenson, possibly Jason Day, and I think Matsuyama and Rory might be the lower owned of the 4.
That's kind of what I'm hoping. And Jason Day, obviously won here last year. Not much going for him of late, but obviously whenever he's in form, he can be a guy who can take down a tournament. He's probably the one guy that I'm probably actually looking to fade this week, though.
Yeah, he hasn't played 2 months. He only played 4 tournaments so far this year. He finished okay at the Tournament of Champions. He finished 5th at the Pebble Beach, but he was near dead last at Genesis, and he missed the cut at the Farmers. So this week it's literally 50-50 on day right now, and paying over $10,000 on a guy, I want to be confident that guy is going to contend and perhaps win for the week.
And I mean, Henrik Stenson, I'm curious to see his ownership for this week. I mean, hasn't finished outside the top 10 here since 2012, and that was just 15th. Basically the only thing that stopped him this previous couple tournaments was a sickness. Other than that, he's been very solid.
Yeah, last week he was a little off with his irons. He couldn't get anything going on the greens. But being the second guy on the list, I think he's going to be very popular with his course history and also with his recent form. I think it'll be him and Jason Day as the probably your top 2, like I said, for the week.
And does that kind of leave Hideki just in the off shot, like kind of GPP mode? I mean, I like him. I mean, 6th year last year. He obviously has the tools to do anything here, especially on a course like this.
Yeah, with his recent form, he's been a little off, but not by much. I mean, he missed a cut at the Genesis. He was okay in Mexico, but then he had a week off. So maybe with the week off, he was resting a little bit. He probably played a little too much golf, so that's why he was a little off. Hopefully, people will see that and be afraid of picking him for the week. I think I'm just gonna play him and McIlroy, and hopefully those two will play and contend for the weekend.
And Matsuyama, I mean, at the cheapest price we've gotten him so far this year too.
Exactly. Like we're used to paying him either the top price or the second highest. So being just over 10,000 right now, you're getting a nice discount.
And moving down the list, I mean, we have Ricky Fowler, Justin Rose, we got Louis right here. I'm a little worried about Fowler this week. I mean, I think he's a good GPP guy, but I don't know if I can play him all that much.
Yeah, with Fowler, it's hit or miss with him, but he did win at the Honda. He's been on form his last 3 tournaments, with only 1 miscut in his last 6. So yeah, he's going to be a fine tournament play in my opinion. But he's still going to be popular. I mean, he has that floor of ownership where people are just going to almost auto-click him. He's going to be probably 15% owned at least, if not more.
And I think, right around him, I mean, Justin Rose playing well this year, has a couple of top 10s here as well, a couple of missed cuts too. Rose kind of always flies under the radar when the bigger names start to pop up above him.
Yeah, it's usually around this time that his ownership starts to go down just a little bit because a lot of big guys from overseas are here, and a lot of people like to play those guys instead of Rose. With Rose's iron play, I mean, he's hitting the greens almost 70% of the time. So, and he's been very consistent so far this year. So there's really no reason for me to fade him this week. He should be a fine tournament play, in my opinion, as well.
And what about the rest of these guys? I mean, this group is kind of loaded in terms of, there's a lot of guys in this 85 to 9,900 range. I mean, you got Snedeker, you got Hatton, Casey, Peters, Molinari, who I like a lot at 8,600 too.
Yeah, I think this is the group of guys that's going to be overlooked. For me personally, I like Snedeker. He's been very consistent so far, and with all the cuts that he's made in his last 5, he's been in the top 10. So with that being said, where he is, I think he's going to be overlooked. Same with Paul Casey. I mean, him and Paul Casey, I really like this week.
What about Hatton? I mean, playing well in the tournaments that he's actually played this year. I mean, he hasn't played a ton, but I mean, when he has, he's been really solid.
Yeah, I mean, Hadwin got the bump up in the price with his win last week. So with that being said, he is going to be very popular after the win. But I think it's for a good reason. He hasn't missed a cut this year, and it looks like he's really putting very well right now. So I'm just going to play the hot hand and just put him in my lineups. I'm just going to go overweight on Hadwin for the week.
Yeah, I mean, the price is still reasonable for me, especially around that range where, Ryan Moore, Brendan Grace, Chappell, Martin Laird, I feel like they're a little bit too inconsistent for me.
Yeah, those are the guys that I think are a little expensive for the week. they're just a little inconsistent with Grace. He's just over that 50% mark for his greens, and Moore is just above Grace right now. So those two guys and the other guys, they're roughly the same type of player. I'm just not going to bother playing them for the week. I think there's better value in the 7,000 range.
Yeah, we'll jump into that range. A guy that you're, looking at one, we'll talk about Charles Howell, but he's not even in the 7K range. So,
Yeah.
Kevin Na, good course history here, 5 top 15s, 2 of those were top 5s. Coming off obviously the miscut, possibly due to the illness, placed 52 in the tournament before. We could see lower ownership here. I don't mind going back to the well just because of kind of how things have unfolded the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, with Kevin Na, he's that consistent player. Again, the guys that I like to play, the guys that are safe. Last week was probably just coming back from the jet airplane or something where he just got sick from Mexico and he tried to play through it and it didn't happen. Maybe with a little extra rest over the weekend, I think he's fine now, and I think he'll actually make the cut and play very well this week, I think.
Yeah, I think, I'm not going to be worried about last week. I think he's going to be a staple to most of my lineups. What about, around that range? What's he liking?
I really like Bjorn Han at 7,000. He's hitting his screens 70% of the time. I don't know why he's priced this low. He's ranked inside the top 50 in the world. He's becoming one of those consistent players that I like this year. He hasn't missed a cut. And yeah, I mean, at 7,000, there's a lot of guys here that I'm just going to fade. And with Han being right there, he's going to be in most of my lineups for this week.
I like Keimer as well. I mean, 7,400, decent price tag on him. I mean, he's been consistent. 23rd in Mexico, 4th at the Honda. And even when he's playing over in Europe, I mean, he's been pretty solid as well.
Yeah, and Keimer is really one of those players that kind of gets overlooked every now and then. He's usually averaging around 12 to 15% in ownership, sometimes less than that. But with this week, I think it's going to be less. I think there's a lot of players here in the 7,000 range where a lot of people are just not going to see him where he is, with a couple top 10s in his last 6 tournaments. I mean, I'm definitely going to play Keimer for the week.
Yeah, really nice price tag on him. A guy we should talk about, Sean O'Hare. With Drew last week, dealing with an injury. You're staying away, I'm staying away.
Yeah, he withdrew because of his neck. So right now he is in the tournament. I don't know exactly what the story is, but I think with the neck injury, as well with any type of back injury, if that player has that, then I'm just going to stay away if he's playing the following week, just to see how he's playing. If there's any lingering in the neck, then yeah, he's probably going to be out for a bit to get that neck healed up.
As far as other guys in the range, a couple of guys that are, may pop up to the average person: Webb Simpson, Hudson Swafford's a name people throw around, Stuart Sink. A lot of them actually don't play well here, and they have a decent course history sampling as well.
Yeah, for example, when you look at Swafford, I mean, he has 1 missed cut in his last 3 attempts here. And in the last 2 years, he was okay. And then he did win earlier in the year, but then after that win, I believe he was trying to changed his swing somewhat, and then that what prompted him to miss the next 3 cuts, and then he finally made the cut last week at Feldspar. So I think being back where he is in the price, he's just a guy where you just want him to make the cut, and that's it. And maybe finish inside the top 30 to really meet value.
Yeah, that's all you're really looking for. I mean, especially at these prices. A guy with some reasonable upside, though. I mean, Tommy Fleetwood, I'm kind of intrigued with. Cheap guy, definitely just a GPP guy. Kind of boomer bust, but I mean, I don't mind him here.
Yeah, Fleetwood is one of those up and comings. And on the European side, he's hitting well over 75% of his greens. And when you look at his recent history, I mean, he finished second in Mexico, 12th the tournament before that, and then a few weeks before that, he actually won a tournament. So he's going to be one of those European guys where maybe most people won't know the name. So hopefully his ownership will be down because of it. I'm going to have him in quite a few of my lineups for this week.
And then we get into, Chalky Charles Howell and 6,900. I mean, you and I were talking. We don't know how it keeps coming to this, but here we are.
Yeah. All you have to do is just look at it and just laugh. For Charles to be down here below 7 is almost like an insult to the guy. When you look at Hadwin, for example, he's been averaging around 7,000 for the last few weeks, and with his win last week, he got the bump up to 84. And you look at Charles, who's been consistent as hell. If you look at his recent form lately, like he has 0 missed cuts for the season still. A couple, high finishes around 50th place in the last 2. But before those 2, I mean, it was like 6 straight top 20s. So for him to be this low, I really don't know why, but he's just going to be in my lineups, probably at least 60% of them for the week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be using him a ton. As far as other guys below 7K, I mean, Graham DeLay, 4 top 25s in a row. Consistent, not a high score, though, but, if you're looking for a guy to make the cut and kind of keep producing, I don't mind him.
Yeah, Graham is he's one of those Canadians where I don't know what to make of him as of right now. He was the Canadian that everyone thought that he was going to be the guy that was going to break Mike Weir's record because of his irons. But his short game is really off right now. He's getting better, but I think I'm just going to stay away. For me, with a couple guys below 7,000, the one guy I like is Johan Wayne. He's on the European side. He's at 6,900. He's not consistent with his greens, but when you look at his recent history, he has a win very recent in his last 4 or 5 tournaments, but he also has a few missed cuts in his recent form. So I'm going to take a shot on him, knowing that not too many people are going to look to him, but hopefully maybe he'll take his game from European side over here and make the cut and maybe finish inside the top 20. And that way I can have a chance of having a nice payday if that were the case.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get some low ownership on him.
Yeah, he's just not the guy that a lot of people know that well if they don't follow golf that much.
I think the only other name I could toss out below 7K that I have some interest in is probably Lucas Glover, 6,700. I mean, who's been just really consistent this year.
Yeah, it definitely looks like he's coming back to where he once was when he won the U.S. Open. He hasn't missed a cut this season. It's been one top 20 and a couple around the 30th, 40th place in his last 6. So for a guy below 7,000, kind of like Charles Howell, where you're getting a really nice discount on the guy, just plug him in and don't think about it. Just play him because you know he's going to play well.
And so with that being said, I mean, with Glover Howell right there, I mean, that opens up a ton of cash.
Exactly. I think with what DraftKings is trying to get players to do is mostly to go more stars and scrubs. So I think that's going to be the most popular stacking, where guys are going to pick maybe 2 guys above 10K and then pick 3 guys below 7, and then just pick their 6th golfer somewhere around in the middle. But to be unique in the big tournament, you could go more balanced, and you could probably be different just by doing that for this week.
Yeah, that's where I think things are going to be going GPP wise. Is, you know, there is a lot of 9K guys that you can use, but like you said earlier, you're pretty much looking at them to be overlooked because of how stars and scrubs approach you can go this week.
Exactly. I'm going to play a lot of Snedeker, a lot of Casey, a lot of Justin Rose this week. I think those guys are going to be very overlooked and very low owned as well.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. Who do you got winning this week?
I'm going to go with Rory McIlroy this week. With Dustin Johnson not playing this week, I can't really go to him. So I think McIlroy is the next guy on my list.
As far as a dark horse?
I think my dark horse this week would be Bjorn Han. Being in the top 50 of the world, price where he is, yeah, I think he's going to be overlooked again. And I think he's going to maybe have a top 5 finish this week.
I like that call. If you want to check out Chris's article, you can head on over to dailyfantasycafe.com and be sure to check out the rest of our great tools and content.